So in this video, we're going to show you how to use the tabletop screen printing setup. This is for screens that are, burned, just like this one, so it has the emulsion on it. You can also use vinyl stencil screens as well. So we'll start by setting up this whole thing. This little tabletop setup is pretty hard to miss because it's bright yellow and it's usually in the printmaking area somewhere. So just look for this. It has these clamps on here, which is the typical tabletop setup. So just go ahead and find this guy when you're ready to go. You've got your screen ready. I've got my ink, I've got my squeegee, and I have, in my case, since I have a burn screen, I have my transparency here that I use to burn the screen, and I have my paper, which was unfortunately on the ground. So the first thing you're gonna do is grab your screen and you're gonna loosen these clamps up. They're really simple. This kind of just spins. You're gonna loosen them up until you can fit your screen underneath them. You're gonna position your screen so that it's like completely on this backing board. And at this point, you're gonna tighten these down. Now, every single screen is gonna be a little bit different, so loosen it and tighten it as you need to. And I'm going, finger tight so that it doesn't slip out. Same thing on this side. And you wanna make sure, I always test it to make sure that it doesn't, wanna wiggle or fall out. So that's good. So now that I have my screen set up, this step is specifically for those of you that have burned a screen. So I have my transparency here, and I'm gonna slip it underneath my image. And if you see, you can actually start lining up where your image is gonna go, because you can see right through your screen, which is the nice part. So if I start lining it up, I'm gonna use that transparency underneath to help me create a placement for my paper. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna lift my screen back up, take some trusty tape, just to keep it in place for now. I'm gonna tape down at least one side so that it doesn't, shift around. Now I know I have my paper off to the side. I can kind of check where this is gonna land when I print it. So my paper is a little bit larger, but that's good. I'm gonna say that's a good spot for my print to land. And in this case, all my paper is the same size, right? So I know I wanna print a few of them. What I'm gonna do right now is create registration for my paper, which is really simple. What I'm gonna do is mark off the corners of the paper so that every time I pull a print, I can place the paper in the same spot. Now you can do, a larger strip of tape if you wanna do that instead. I feel like corners work very, very well, and you don't have to use a ton of tape. And also, don't rip your tape like me. All right, so. After you do all 4 of your corners, actually in this case, I'm gonna pull my transparency off because I know that my paper is in the right spot. So I'm just gonna finish marking my 3rd and 4th corner. So now I know every single time I go to print, I can place my paper in the same spot. It's just so you're not guessing the whole time. All right. So at this point, we're ready to start printing. I'm gonna take I actually use this tape in many ways for multiple reasons. When I'm initially putting ink on my screen, I put the tape underneath so that there's a little bit of a gap between the screen and the backing, because you don't really want to get ink on there accidentally. And it actually helps you pull your ink through the screen the first time, which is what you typically do before you pull ink onto your final print. So here I'm applying a little bit of ink, or enough ink, to the screen itself. And I'm actually gonna flip this around. So now this tape is actually acting as a barrier. I'm gonna flood my screen first. So once you have your screen flooded, you can lift your screen up. This is really convenient because it stands up. This is when you can take a piece of paper, align it in the spot that you marked, bring your screen down, and I'm gonna do my final pull through the screen. And then very gently pick it up and you've got your print. And so now, if you have all your paper ready, you can bring these prints over to the drying rack that's located in the printmaking area. It moves around, but it's this guy right here. It's the wire rack. So you can slide all your prints in there to have them dry, and you can keep going. And so that's the basics of printing with this setup. Now when you're done, cleanup, which is a very, very important step as well, is next. So I would take any of the excess ink that I have on my screen or on my squeegee, and use your ink knife or your tool that you're using to apply ink and just scrape it off. Any that's still good, still wet, you can put back into the can, just so you're not wasting a ton. And now we're gonna go over to the sink to wash this out, because you always want to wash your ink out of your screen if you plan on using it again, or even if you don't, it's just good practice. The ink is acrylic, which means that when it dries, it hardens into a plastic. So if you leave it in your screen will be ruined at that point, and you might have to restretch it, which is no fun. You'd wash off your squeegee. I'm looking for the sponge. There it is. You'd wash off your squeegee first, and whatever ink knife you were using. There's a little shelf up here. It's conveniently located. Just make sure you put your stuff away. And this washes off pretty easily with just water from the squeegee and the ink knife. So those are good, they're pretty clean. Make sure you get any of your ink off. There may be some left over from someone else. It's dry. And now it's time for your screen. So I'm gonna start with the side that we squeegeed ink through. So the side with the well. And I typically like to use a little bit of hand soap, dish soap, whatever you like to use, but a soap does help clean this out. And I'll scrub with a sponge first to really get this loosened. And this guy is great for screen. So it does spray a little bit, but point downwards so it doesn't spray. And it cleans up pretty easily. So you do one side and you're gonna wanna hit the other side too, because there'll be some that comes out on this side. Again, sponge with some soap and water in it. Give the other side a little scrub. Same deal. Spray that down, flip it back over, and get alright. So at this point you can take your screen out, let it drip dry a little bit, and set it off to the side to dry. You can put a fan on it if you want it to dry faster, but that's basically it. So, and then make sure you clean everything else up in your area on the table. But that's it.